In this video short, I want to go over all of the new features that we're adding in version 3.3 of the QBOT v3 app. So, to get these features, of course, you must have the QBOT v3 upgrade to your QBOT head, which includes the Bluetooth module and an update to the firmware. So once you have all that, here are the features that you're getting in version 3.3. First, we have a new feature called Tap Anywhere. And what is this? Well, when setting points, currently in version 3.25 and below, we had two ways. First is to press the set point button, and the second way was voice recognition. Well, with all of our added new features that we've come on with, I noticed as I was quilting that I was spending a lot of time looking up at the screen and pressing the set point button and trying to be very careful where I was putting my finger. And likewise, sometimes I was getting a little bit tired of saying okay for the voice recognition. It was after doing it maybe 500 times when doing a precise boundary, it was getting to be a little bit much, and it was nice to switch on and off between voice recognition and hitting the set point button. But I noticed that it would be nicer if I did not have to take my eyes off of the needle to then look up at the tablet and press the set point button. So what we've added for those users that do the user input through the tablet and not the keypad on the QBOT, we've added the Tap Anywhere function. And what this does is, if we go into pattern quilting here on our tablet, I want to select my first point. Before, I would have to hit the set point button. Well, now I can just tap anywhere in the right hand screen. So all I have to do is do that. I don't have to pull my eyes up from the needle to look. So to look at it in side view, see, I'm looking down here at my needle and I'm just tapping the screen. I don't have to pay attention to any kind of precise placement. It's really nice, and I found that it lowered my fatigue level quite a bit, especially when choosing hundreds of points when I was doing those detailed applique designs or doing the detailed cutouts around blocks and then quilting around them. It just makes life easier. Looking down at my notes here, the next thing that we have is also real help when doing edge-to-edge designs. So let's look at that next. It comes into play when using the modify. So I'm going to go prepare an area and we'll put in a design, and then you can see exactly how cool this is. So let me go back over to my tablet here, and I'm going to go back into pattern quilting, and I'm going to just set some points here. I'm not going to actually quilt anything out, but I'm going to set my points like this and press done, and I'll put in an edge-to-edge design that requires an offset. So you know what, I'm going to go into modern quilting, modern quilt here, and I'm going to put in this design here, and I'll modify it, I'll shrink it down, and I'm going to create a little edge-to-edge with it. I'm just going to hit the chain it together, and like that. So I'll just chain it like that. Then I'll double tap the X just so that it fits into the boundary. Okay, so say that's my design and I want to quilt that, and I'll move to the start point. I'm not going to quilt it. What I'm going to do is a % restart, and then I'll show you the cool feature that we've added, because all of this is already in version 3.25. So I'm going to turn off my sewing head here so it doesn't quilt. I'll press go, and then I'll pause it, do a % restart, and set this to 100%. And then move to the restart position. Press go. Okay, now the cool part. let's do an overlay and modify. And here you'll notice that the coordinates in the delta x and delta y fields are 0. And this is new in version 3.3. And what this means is it's zeroed out to the latest quilted out path. So, for instance, if I want to move this design now, and I know that I have to move it down and I have to shift it, well, let me undo that step here. I'm going to first double tap the delta x so that it's locked. Then I'm just going to move it down. And then I'm going to double tap to take that off. And I need to shift this over. Just like that. And I can tap just like that. So now I know that if I wanted to do this again, I know my delta x and delta y values, what is needed to do the next offset row. Before, not to confuse things, but before, these numbers, the delta x and delta y, were in reference to the original placement of the design. Now they're in reference to the last quilted portion. So I quilt out this row, right like this. Actually, you know what? We're going to do it so that it's clear. This looks like the correct placement for the second row. It looks like I have to move the delta x minus 1.14, and I have to move the delta y down minus 2.09. Well, if I've got a whole quilt of this, I just have to write down those numbers, and when I do the offsets in the future, I just type it in. I'll show you how that's done. So here we do. I'm going to turn my trim on to the boundary just for fun, just to show that we can do that, and then I'll press done and we'll move to the start. And we'll quilt this out, but we're really not quilting it out. We'll show you how easy it is to now just put in those numbers. So I'll press go, pause, % restart, type in 100%, and go. All right, now we're here at the overlay, modify again. Okay, so now we're at delta x and delta y equal to 0, 0 again, and that was after we quilted that second row. So now I just have to put in my 1.14 for the delta x shift and minus 2.09 for my delta y shift, and I don't have to really even place it with my finger anymore and guess row to row. And this is pretty neat. So let me just put it in here, 1.14, done, and minus 2.09, done. And there you can see now it's down at the bottom and it's past the boundary, but you can see that it accurately placed that next row. Now what's also cool is this. Say I lost everything and I used my finger and I got all the numbers jumbled up and uh-oh, now I've lost my registration. Now what do I do? Check this out. This is also a new feature. So, okay, now I've moved this all around and I don't know what the numbers mean anymore. So let's just say I put it up there to the top one, and now I'm nudging it to get it kind of back in place. So that looks like it's pretty good. I've done a pretty good job of getting it back in place. Well, what if now I want to zero that out? Now I want to call that my zero position. We've added this feature, and let's just call it's like a long press, and it puts the delta x and delta y back to 0. So it's like an incremental grid 0 that you can then use to then move things around. So I'm just going to tap and hold the delta x. You can see that it flashed red. Tapping and holding resets that to 0. And now I can move that design a specified amount. Okay, so I moved it down 2.09. Well, let's see. Now let me just move it down the next 2.09. and we can get back to where we need to be. Now, where else can we use this? We can use this in all kinds of places. Say we just have a pattern that we're a block design that we're moving, and we chose the outer boundary and we chose some parts in the outer boundary that are little reference points that we can use, that we want to reference the design from. Then we also have points on the design that we use as the reference point. So we have the reference points on the quilt block, and then we have the reference points on the design, and we align those up. So we can use our finger and we can nudge the design over to align our little reference points. Then we can tap and hold the delta X, tap and hold the delta Y, zero it out, and then move our design perfectly by direct input based off of those reference points. It comes in handy. It's not used all the time, but when you're trying to do something very precise and you want to get things moved away precisely, or not moved away, I guess that's the wrong term, but positioned at a specific increment away from some reference lines, it comes in really handy. You don't have to do any guesswork on the tablet. You've got that automatic zero, and you don't have to whip out a calculator and start doing math to figure things out. You just zero it out and then move it. The next feature we have added in version 3.3 is a calibrate routine. And we recommend using the calibrate routine. In fact, you have to use the calibrate routine if you upgrade to our heavy duty or super duty drive wires. And if you look at the screen over here, this is in our quilting options page, we have this element right here called calibration. And you run this routine. There's a link below to the calibration routine video where we show you how to do that. You run the routine and then the machine is calibrated, so 1 inch in the real world equals 1 inch in the QBOT world, and everything works great. The next feature we have in version 3.3 is the laser precision pointer offset calibration routine. So with our new laser precision pointer, which mounts on the side of the head of the sewing machine and allows you to look at the laser pointer rather than looking at the needle when setting points. If we take a look down here at just here on this fabric that I've got on the frame here, here is my laser precision pointer right there, and here is the needle. So now when we invoke the offset, we can set all of our points with this laser point, but when it's time to quilt, the needle goes to the correct location. So it's a little bit different, but we have to establish the relationship between that laser dot and the needle. So if you look in our quilting options here, you see the offset calibration that I have on my machine, just how I've mounted it. It has a delta X of 1.4 and a delta Y of minus 0.07. Of course, if you have the precision pointer, your numbers will be totally different, but I've done the calibration routine. And again, look at the link down in the comment section and you can see my video on that. One of the great features we have is the Appliqué Echo routine. So that is totally new and it's amazing. That allows you to do precision applique around appliques or special blocks or decorative stitches around things. It is amazing. You have the choice of the stitch width, the stitch length, the stitch angle, whether you like it symmetric, one-sided, staggered. It's a great routine to look at. That is new in version 3.3. We've also added some system sounds when setting points. So if you say OK to set a point, in voice recognition, it will acknowledge with the click. If you press the set point button, it will acknowledge with a system sound. And if you press using the tap anywhere function, it will also let you know that the point has been set. You don't have to look back up at the screen to know that a point has been set. And the last thing that we've added is jump stitches to the inner boundary when you're choosing inner boundaries in fill quilting or pattern quilting. So let's take a quick look at that and see what that looks like. Let's go to fill quilting, and we can just set some points here real quick to get our boundary, and then we'll set an inner boundary. And now you can see we have the 4 following options on the left-hand screen. So we've got 4 options. We've got stitch outer boundary, jump stitch outer boundary, stitch the inner boundary, or jump stitch the inner boundary. So this can be a little bit handy because even if you choose not to stitch the outer boundary as a continuous line, there are times when you use fill quilting where it still has to run around the outside of the block to continue and finish the fill quilting, to have everything work right as a continuous line. Adding the jump feature, jump stitch feature, both to the outer boundary and inner boundary means it will do straight lines and stop and end and tie off at the ends if you like, based on whether you need it or not. And sometimes you may need that. So I found that in doing samples and in just doing some quilts, I thought, you know, sometimes it would be nice to be able to use a jump stitch. It's a little bit more tedious to do that process, but the end results are better. And when you consider that your end result lasts for, you know, 50 years or something like that, I'll take the extra 5 minutes to trim and have it done perfectly. And that's it for the features that we've added for version 3.3. So it is live right now on the Google Play Store, so get that upgrade, get it downloaded and start using it. And of course, we always have bug fixes that, you know, come along the way. We keep track of the bugs and fix those as well. So definitely upgrade to version 3.3, and until next time, happy quilting.